Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Nazir McFadden, who serves as the assistant conductor and community ambassador of our own Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Nazir, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, so I'm so excited to talk to you. Obviously, you're just such a wonderful presence and have such a significant role in Southeast Michigan. And also this episode co-curated by our wonderful creative partner, the Kresge Foundation, also, of course, doing so much extraordinary work, not only here in Southeast Michigan, but nationally and is such a leader. So I want to dive right in. I thought it would be great first if you could just kind of share kind of your current sphere of your profile. Obviously, you have this role with the DSO, which we'll get into, but just kind of if you could just share your role as a conductor, as a maestro, as an artist.
Sure. So, first and foremost, I am a clarinetist. I started playing clarinet in the fifth grade, and conducting sort of came along with it. And now that I've been conducting professionally for the past 5 years, I've had the great privilege of working in Detroit, but also making my presence known and introducing myself and my artistry to orchestras, not only here in the United States, but also in Europe and Germany and in London. I'm very excited to share what a new path for conductors can look like. And also, I'm excited to have my voice be heard by audiences, orchestras, and community leaders alike. And we're really shaping this new path forward for classical music. So I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so kind of in this, right? Obviously, many in our audiences are affiliated with orchestras and or work with organizations that partner with orchestras or think about kind of this role that orchestras play in our communities. And so I thought I'd kind of start there. One, can you kind of share, what does it mean to be a community ambassador? But then even broader, why does an orchestra need a community ambassador? What's that role that an orchestra should play?
Sure. So, I over the past 3 seasons in Detroit, my title hasn't changed as the Philip and Lauren Fisher Community Ambassador, but I think the work that I do and what I think about that title has changed. It's very common to have orchestras based in cities around the United States, but I like to think of the orchestra in the city as, let's take Detroit for instance, the Symphony Orchestra of Detroit and not Detroit Symphony Orchestra, because that second title just means that the orchestra is based in the city. And being a true symphony orchestra of Detroit means that we need to listen to the city. We need to understand what the city needs and wants from us. And we have to be, the platform to deliver their expectations. Of course, we want, the city and the audience members to come into the concert hall and to hear these great performances and, see these great artists. But, music is not just something that we can enjoy, but it's a tool that we can use to bring people together, whether it's through live performances, music education. Being a real cultural and educational institution is what I feel, or getting to that goal is what I feel that the community ambassador can help do. So, I'm constantly attending events in the city, in and outside of music, listening to and having conversations with community leaders, whether it's legislators, teachers, people working in schools, people working with our young students, and getting a feel for, what they want, the music that they listen to, the artists that they like. And also, even outside of music, what are their needs? What are their wants? What are their dreams for the city and for themselves? And me, as the community ambassador, I'm the spokesperson for the institution and for the people.
That's awesome. And I love also how you describe that and also how you're immersing yourself in the community. As you think about this kind of role of orchestras, and let's take, of course, right here in Detroit, it, do you feel like there are things that are unique in terms of an orchestra's role for Detroit? Or do you feel like kind of all major city orchestras kind of have these similar roles? Or do you feel there's any aspects that you've come to know that make Detroit unique? In other words, an orchestra in Detroit really that you found needs to be responsive in these ways, or connective in these ways, or pay attention to these particular things because that's Detroit.
Of course, Detroit is such an underrated city. And I think it's not until you're in the city that you realize this. Detroit has so much to offer in music, the versatility and the diversity of music that can be found here, but also within the arts. There's so many different artists and poets. I mean, I work with Jessica Care Moore a lot, and she's a really great friend of mine, just to name one person who has really shaped the arts and culture scene in Detroit. And I think, every city almost every big city has an orchestra and has someone who is tasked with being a community leader or ambassador. But I think what makes Detroit so special, the people, but also the orchestra and the city, is that it's a city that doesn't give up. It knows its values. It knows what it stands for, what it wants, and it also sees a future for itself. And it takes just one person, and that person can be me. It could be a patron or a musician, to spark conversations, to bring everyone together so that we all have one central idea, but just different ways to achieving that goal. What makes Detroit so special is that it's open minded and it is eager to hear ideas and opinions from everyone, and uses those ideas and opinions to better itself. So I'm so grateful to have spent the last 3 years in Detroit.
That's awesome. And absolutely love that. And kind of now backing out from just that specific role of, say, orchestra in a community and being a community ambassador, you're, I would assume kind of addressing, right, these different aspects of your artistic life as a conductor, as a performing artist, as an instrumentalist, etc. Kind of wondering, how do you look at that, and do you have any suggestions for people who are watching who may be struggling with, I don't know whether to focus more on this, or I feel like I'm just always running and I never get to stop, and I'm getting pulled in 10 different directions. And any thoughts about how you manage that kind of lifestyle?
Sure. So I want to say I have been very privileged to grow up in Philadelphia. It's one of the great cities in the USA. And what's so special about the art scene, and especially for a young musician, is its dedication to mentorship, opportunity, and access. And that's something having internalized at a young age, so that I can always have a cohort of mentors or teachers or even like-minded students to run things across, or to ask those difficult questions, or just to get simple opinions in and out of music. And having that community and network is so important for the success of any individual at any point in their life, career, or education. So coming to Detroit, one of the things I wanted to spearhead, or to be a strong advocate for, is mentorship for our young people and for our students. So my advice to any young person, student, or anyone at any point is to find a mentor, find a like-minded individual. It could be anyone. Create that network for yourself, create that community, and also to be your own advocate. A colleague and mentor and friend of mine, Joseph Conyers, told me, if there's a door in front of you, knock on the door. And if it won't open, kick it open, create a space for yourself, and then others will follow suit. And that's something I want to, speak life into anyone who's listening to this, anyone, any age, any point in your life. Find your community, and you will never fail.
Oh, absolutely awesome. And of course, Joe Conyers, early Sphinx laureate,
Yeah.
and was able to participate in Sphinx in Detroit in the early days, and of course has gone on to such wonderful and amazing things. So this is just, it's really incredible kind of hearing you focus on that, and especially mentorship. And thankfully in Detroit, we have a number of institutions that try to provide these roles, et cetera, those types of things. As you're kind of looking forward to, and especially thinking about young people or people just, emerging into their careers, definitely a number of people in our audience find themselves wondering, being worried about now, that this particular time they feel concerned about their opportunities or about that ability to find a mentor or the ability to find community. Any thoughts you have about that, or any advice about the now?
Of course. And, we spend so much time thinking about the future or thinking about the past. We never think about now. And, perhaps that question is a little difficult to answer because we're in the now constantly. And while things may not be so bad now, what about tomorrow? And my advice, and I don't know how impactful this may be because we're all experiencing it now, is to voice how you're feeling, voice your story, voice your opinion, because the only way to change the future is to tell the stories of today. So if you can't find a mentor, if you can't find someone to speak to, there are so many avenues that we can approach this from. I mean, whether it's through social media, whether it's through writing, whether it's through writing your legislator or talking to a teacher or anyone, your pastor, someone you met on the streets, because you never know who you're going to speak to. You never know who you're going to run into. Voice your story and you will be heard. You have to create a space for yourself even when you don't see it. And it goes back to that analogy that I stand by. If there's a door in front of you, knock on it. And if there's no door, or if the door won't open, kick it open, make a space for yourself. It's so important.
I absolutely love that, and especially love how you shared about this importance of telling the story of now, and you, of course, are doing that extraordinarily on stages here in Detroit and around the country. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests, this work that you're doing, this impact on for our community, with our community, and with the DSO is so extraordinary. But there's got to be some tough days where it seems like whatever that obstacle is, tough to overcome, et cetera. And just wondering, for you, on those toughest of days, do you have any mechanisms that you found work really well for you?
We all have the tough days, but I found when I go through them, it's important for me to realize that where I am right now is not where I'm going to be tomorrow. And also, it's not where I was 5 years ago. So while this moment may be hard, the future is bright, and what I've gone through in the past is even brighter. And it's important to remember that I'm where I'm supposed to be at any given moment, and that's okay.
Nazir McFadden, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you do in our field. Thank you so much for everything you do for us in Detroit. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.